We did a poll about fighting against the southpaw. And so what I found out is that most people have the most trouble against taller fighters and fighting against southpaws. And what I decided to do was really bring this thing front and center, how to deal with an actual southpaw. But first of all, you don't always have the exact same problems with these southpaws because a lot of those guys are switch hitters. That means they're not real southpaws. So what we're going to also uncover is how to detect when a person's not a real southpaw and how to expose them. That's what we're going to cover. But the most important thing about when you're boxing against someone at an elite level, like Zab Judah, Joe Calzaghe, Manny Pacquiao, people who are nice and rangy, Winky Wright, the southpaws that have dominated in their weight classes, is you have to understand how to assess what their scenario is. Winky Wright was rangy and persistent with a jab. So, how do you make sure that you're not a victim of that jab? The first thing you have to do is start distracting, extracting, taking away. All right, you have to learn that that's the precipice of dealing with a person who fights in that manner. Because why do you think most people have so much trouble with southpaws? Because there's not a lot of people who are at the gym that fight in that style at an elite level and at the pace that they can do that on fight night. So that's why you find so many people dealing with it and it's so difficult. But just the things that you can detect, like I'll just talk about one area that you can detect, and there'll be like a list of them, because if you go back to when you saw Shakur Stevenson recently in the ring, he's throwing the jab, popping the jab, but he's getting in the pocket in the Philly shell. You see, that's one of the things that a southpaw who understands that conventional fighters don't know how to deal with them. So he did something that he knew that a conventional fighter would not be able to cope with. He got in the pocket and countered him exponentially, like constantly. And it was a one-sided affair based on what the other guy could do to him damage-wise. And here's what you got to remember now. When you're boxing against a southpaw, your footwork is one of the most important variables. And not just having good footwork, because a lot of athletic boxers think because they're athletic that they can overcome anything. But fighting against a southpaw is so treacherous in in the pocket when you don't know what you're doing and where you think you know what you're doing, and then you get exposed. And how you prevent that is making sure that you show up for the live that we're going to do tomorrow, where we show you the demonstrations. And if you don't realize that you're not going to understand how to fight a southpaw by watching videos, that's not how you go about it. There are three phases of layering a skill into you, right? Number one, if you don't have something that actually is the exact same thing every single day, it's called a program. It's a system of boxing. And you have to follow it. And every single day, and make sure everything that you'll need to do. I mean, I don't need to say this to you. Everything that you need to do, not just favor doing, is in line to do it. You don't have to wake up and figure out what you got. That's why I tell all of you trainers, if you don't have a guide, basically, or a published book of your own, you're more of a detriment to the game, because you get up and you try to think out of your head and do all of these things straight out of your dome. And that's not how you teach boxing. Boxing is a sport. You don't see an NFL coach coaching off the top of his head. You don't see an NBA coach coaching off the top of his head, nor in the NCAA. No, they don't. They have a drawing board. They have a chalkboard. They have iPads that have designs and plays. You go to a boxing gym, coach is standing there with a stinking towel over his shoulder, and he's just thinking about what the guy should be doing because he saw some good inspiration on YouTube and Instagram. And that will get your fighter blown up against a fighter who's an educated fighter, a textbook fighter. He fights straight out of the textbook. He doesn't overthink anything. And so that's where we go wrong straight out of the gate. Now, understanding footwork is very important, but knowing how to really just know that your first thing is having that guide. The second part of this is the practical training. Practical training looks like this, okay? You see the guys, you got a partner to do XYZ drill. And what they're doing is developing reaction and muscle memory to do particular things that are actually in this guide. And I'll put the link down in the description for the training guide that you need to use if you're doing this. For some of you who are actual students, now I know a lot of people are real Instagrammers, so they're going to become the champ watching Instagram. There's that. So, but for those of you who are true students, we'll put the link down below. And anytime I put a link down below, it's going to be to a discount page. So don't worry about that. Now, we don't sell cheap stuff. So if you're a cheapo, don't worry about it. There are a lot of people who sell a lot of cheap stuff, but what we do is we solve a real problem with what we do. And we're not going to put anything out there. I'm generation 5 with you guys. Generation 5. So we know what we're doing. When it comes down to fighting against southpaws, when we put the poll up today and yesterday, we saw that most people are truly concerned, but we say on the low, out of sight, out of mind. If I ain't nobody talking about it, I don't really need to bring it up. But we're here for the coaches, the people who are running boxing programs. So we're going to make sure you have that. Now, the third component to understanding how to train is not just the programming, because that's cool. And it helps you get to number 3, the programming method. And it's a system. That means any problem you will run into will be in this playbook, how to defuse it. All right. That's what this is about. The second part of that third component is knowing exactly how to hardwire your nervous system for the duress that you will go through. So therefore, you have to make sure you're doing your sparring training in 4 tiers. All right. Entry level, which is the basics, just basic pace, low intensity. And then you turn it up to your average speed. That means what you do, bah, boom, and you're letting it go. Third is making sure no matter what happens, you turn that thing up to hot sauce. So you got to have that sizzle. That shows that you're comfortable in that zone, in that target heart rate, that beats per minute. All of those things calculate into what your neurological passage, period. And then you get it into your nervous system. And that's what tier 4, fight mode, where it gets really hard, it gets dark. It's the trenches of boxing. So when you can put all of these things together, that's what you're gonna find, a complete fighter. And that's the only reason I got into this game, because I knew I had the skill set to teach people and lead people and provide them with what they needed. Now, the question was, who's your avatar? Who is the student? Because see, I don't cater to those who just want a quick tip because they don't understand why they doing it, when to do it, and when not to do it. So that's not my student. I'm a professor. I've gone from trainer to coach to teacher to professor. And what a professor does is they write the books. And so I write the training systems of boxing now. So that's where I've been, and over 100,000 hours dedicated, loyal. I need students. So if you're a student, that link will be down below, and you can start that out with a 52 weeks training guide. First, clear your mind so you have space to think of things that are much more important than what you are thinking about doing today off of some sizzle reel. Stay away from the sizzle reel unless you're just a guy who think you can make it to title contention with clips. But the key is realize why there aren't any Super Bowl winners with a coach that comes and thinks out of his head. See, sport is about systems, just like business. Amazon, Apple, Facebook, those are businesses. They're just not coming up with good ideas and trying them because they saw something and it doesn't have any base. You got to build a base. These are your base. And so with that being said, this is the training guide for the art of sparring. And then you have the 52 weeks training guide. I'll put them both in the description, but we want to make sure that tomorrow when we go over how to detect the southpaw, that you guys are really learning this stuff the right way. So with that being said, hopefully this was something to give you some insight. If you are a clip person, hopefully this will inspire you to become more of a student of the game, because being a student, it really let me know and see how much more knowledge students have than the other people. We're about solutions and other people about quick fixes. If it comes fast, it goes fast. Never have you seen a champion reign as champion without a deep lineage. They fight out of a system. Emanuel Stewart, when you're looking at people like 𝗙𝗵𝗺𝗵𝗁, these guys make legends. So there's that. And for all of you guys who are aspiring to box, just remember, all you got to do is keep it simple. Don't just get swayed left to right thinking about all of these different options that you have, because you really don't. You're either going to learn it right or you're going to learn it like most people. And if you don't want to be scattered, do the smart thing for yourself, because boxing is nothing to goof around with. You play baseball, you play football, but you don't play boxing. If you don't want to play boxing, go down below and I'll see you in the winner's circle tomorrow. Tune in for how to deal and expose southpaw fighters. Coach Bradley signing out. Peace.